Blogging is a great way to reinforce learning, make money, and also share knowledge about whatever you've learned. And I think over the years, a couple of people think or developers believe that they can't blog because maybe they don't know enough or it's not something that is meant for them. As someone who has been in tech blogging for a couple of years, this talk is centered around explaining the importance of blogging as a developer. So I'll try to explain, just give a highlight of what blogging is and also highlight the very importance of blogging as a developer. My name is Edidiong Asikpo. I work as a developer advocate at Hashnode and contribute to the Video Land open source organization as a technical writer. Before we get started, it's important for us to talk about what blogging is. I know this is a word that we've often heard about like a couple of times, but just to refresh your knowledge about this topic, right? So what is blogging? So blogging, there are like different types of blogging, right? So there's like you could blog about like traveling or blog about food and stuff, but that's not what we're talking about today. Today we are focused on tech blogging, right? So tech blogging is a type of writing where a person in tech writes about a particular subject that requires direction, instruction, or explanation, right? So I'm not just writing about any single thing. I'm trying to help you or like direct you to a particular place, right? So let's say, for instance, I'm writing a blog on how to use scroll trigger plugin in React. I wouldn't just like open a docs for it and just say, hey, scroll trigger plugin is this, is that. I need to write or set out instructions on how for you to achieve that particular thing. So it means I'll have to define what scroll trigger plugin is, right? Then tell you how to install it. Then tell you that after you finish installing, these are necessary things you need to do, and this is what you're going to achieve at the end of reading that article. So you can see that that blog is basically directing you to a particular place or helping you achieve something. So simply put, blogging is an efficient and clear way to explain something and how it works. So I'm not just telling you that, oh, hey, this is something, but I'm also explaining how that particular thing works. So there's definitely been like a myth about writers. A couple of people think writing is not for them, that they don't need to blog because maybe they're not born with the skill of blogging, or they're not smart enough. So I was definitely curious to hear what other people think about this. So I made a tweet sometime last year where I asked the question, do you think writers are born or made? And it was very interesting to see the opinions of a lot of people. I took a screenshot of that, which is you can see on my screen now. There were like tons of them. So you could definitely check it out later. I think I have it somewhere in my slide, a link to my slide. So Blessing Raibu, for instance, said, I think writers are both born and made. Writing is a skill that can be developed over time. Writing also comes naturally to certain people. So she doesn't agree, she's not picking a side. She's basically saying, hey, writers can be born and writers can also be made as well. So if you're following the made part, then it's like a skill that you can get over time. But then she also believes that to some people, writing comes naturally. You don't need to think about it too much, it just comes naturally to you. And then again, Sunday, for instance, says writers are made. He doesn't believe that writers are born. He believes writers are absolutely made. And then it says, for instance, even if you were born with the inherent potential to write without practice, there isn't much difference with someone who hasn't written a word before. So what he's pretty much saying is, yeah, let's just assume we're born with the spirit of writing here. How would you actually know that you can write if you don't take that first step to write? And if you don't take that first step to write, then there's no difference between you and someone who hasn't written a word before. Let me give you a more practical example. When it comes to football, a lot of people know about Messi and Ronaldo, which are like really interesting footballers in the world, right? And these people can play football just like any other football. They're absolutely great that even though you're not into football, you know these people. And think about it, doesn't mean that they were born with the skill of playing football. And even if they were born with that skill, what if Messi or Ronaldo did not take that first step to go and kick a ball? How would they know that they would be this good at football? So what that's pretty much saying is anybody can be good at something. So it may come a bit easier for other people, but you won't really know your potential except you give it a try to actually start doing that particular thing. Dami, on the other hand, says, I can only relate to made. I started writing a lot this year and I have conversations with clients on behalf of the business. I've helped people with their personal statement for uni applications, and I have a lot of documentation as well. My English writing was average in university. So what it's pretty much saying is writers are made. The more you write, the more better you become at that particular thing. In my opinion, I wouldn't necessarily agree with either of them, but I know for sure that whether you're born or made with the skill of writing, it is something that anybody can do. I'll give an instance of myself where I struggled a lot with being able to like express myself with words at some point, and I decided to be more intentional about learning how to write. Yeah, and because of that intentionality, I started doing the necessary thing, which involves like reading, for instance, or not writing things in short forms again. And over time, that has definitely, I mean, blogging and writing in general has definitely helped my career as a software developer in diverse ways that I cannot really explain. But there are tons of ways that writing has helped me as a software developer and in my career trajectory generally. So now that we understand that anybody can write, so you don't need to be born with the skill of writing to actually start a blog. You can actually start and improve over time. Let's talk about why it's important for developers to actually blog. The first thing is you get to give back to the community. So let's think of it this way. When you started learning how to code, you most likely read, I mean, maybe one or two articles to understand a particular programming language or a particular concept, for instance, right? So in fact, not even when you started learning how to code, I feel like even when you're no longer a code newbie, you still read articles to have like a better knowledge, right? So I mean, if this assumption I'm making is true, then it means that you've benefited from an article that was written by someone before in your life. So just take a moment and imagine that these articles were not written. So let's say we're trying to understand how to use the DOM in JavaScript, for instance, and you've read like tons of articles, but none of them really made sense to you. Then luckily for you, one day you found this particular article that just really resonated with you and you really understood that thing. So take a second to think about it. What if the person that wrote that article that made you understand it did not write it? It therefore means you'd have like spent like a longer time trying to understand it, or maybe never understand it. So if you benefited from anybody's article or anybody's blog at some point in life, then this blogging is a great way to give back to that community that helped you as well. Because the way you explain something might be very beneficial to someone else. How you explain something might be like it is exact thing someone has been looking for, someone is waiting for to actually understand a particular concept. So once you write, you're definitely giving back to the community, helping code newbies, helping intermediates, helping experts become better in whatever field or language or framework or concept you're trying to understand. And then the next one is it helps you improve your skill. I mean, I feel like over the years, people think tech blogging is only about educating other people, but I don't agree with that. Tech blogging is not just about educating other people, but it's also about like learning as well, right? Because when you're trying to teach someone something, you really need to understand it better in order to be able to teach that thing, right? So I know tons of tech bloggers who didn't necessarily have like the complete knowledge about what they wrote until they started preparing for that article. So for instance, I probably want to write about maybe how to use like a particular hook. Let's say use state hook in React, for instance. And I don't really know a lot about it, but I really just want to write this article. So that would be a process for me to learn about use state and actually really use it, because I want to be able to explain something in a way that somebody will understand. So in the process of sharing knowledge with somebody else, like trying to educate other people, I'm also educating myself as well. And I'm also improving my skill over time. So if I consistently write about React.js, for instance, for over a year or a couple of months, right? And you now compare me to someone who only codes with React.js and does not write it, you'd see that there's significant things that I may understand more than that person who just writes the code, right? Because I mean, I'm not just writing the code, but I'm also trying to explain it to someone else. So that means I'm like really going deep to really understanding exactly what I'm doing and exactly what this thing is about in order to explain it better to somebody else. And then the third thing for me is blogging helps to improve your brand. So when you start blogging, most often than not, a lot of people might not notice you. You just be like, oh well, nobody's reading my article. Nobody's really reading this my blog. It's not necessary. But trust me, if you continue doing it over time, you realize that people in the community would know you for that particular blog or know you for that particular thing you blog about. So you start becoming like a spokesperson in the community for a particular framework. So let's say I've been writing about React.js for like years, like it's like 3-4 years, and there's an opportunity that comes up about React.js. Someone would remember that, oh hey, did you write about React.js? So let's offer her this opportunity, for instance. So when you build, blogging helps you build that brand. You could be writing about web development, and because you've helped a lot of people now know that you have that particular skill. So if any opportunity comes that has to do with web development, you'd always be the first person that comes to mind to share that opportunity with. I mean, aside from that as well, when you apply for jobs and recruiters look at your blog, for instance. So let's say you applied for a front end development job, right? And there's someone else who also applied for that same job as well, but the person doesn't write. And you, on this other hand, as someone who understand how to code extremely very well, but then you've also been blogging about front end engineering for years. And when the recruiter looks at these two CVs, right, the recruiter will most likely want to choose you because he has seen that you're not just someone who knows how to code, but you also know how to communicate effectively. You also know how to explain the things well, right? And trust me, everybody likes a software engineer who also has a good communication skill. So this definitely does not only like make you known in the tech community, but it also increases your chances of getting a role when you apply for them. Most times you don't even need to apply for this role. People just reach out to you because they read your article and they're like, oh my god, this article is so cool. This person really knows what he or she is doing. I love this person to join my company, or I love this person to help me build a product or project, right? And you get those opportunities from building your brand through blogging. So yes, you're blogging to teach people, but then you're also helping yourself in the process. Fourth thing is blogging helps you make money. Yes, so you're not just, I mean, fine, other benefits are great, but making money from blogging is also a really fantastic thing as well, right? So I'm going to highlight some of the things that you can do, some of the different ways you can make money as a software developer who is blogging. So the first thing is through ads. If you add ads to your blogging platform, you make money through that. But there've been like a couple of thoughts, right? A lot of developers don't like to see ads on boards. So what I would recommend in this situation is trying to use Carbon Ads, like a platform. So this platform only ships out ads that are like developer related or design related. So any developer who comes to your blog and sees those type of ads would most likely not be irritated by them. So you still get to make your money and you still get to get like tons of viewers on your blog as well. And the second thing is web monetization. So web monetization is quite different from ads, right? So I think it's, to me, it's basically for people who don't like ads, because you still get to make money through the number of views you get on your blog, but nobody's seeing any sort of like advertisement or whatsoever. So all you need to do is just add some code to your blog, for instance, right? And once you enable it, anybody who uses the platform as well that comes to your blog, there will be some kind of charges. So you end up making money from that, from monetizing your blog as well. And then the third thing is writing paid. There are a couple of paid community writing programs that pay developers between like $100 to like $1,000 to write a technical article. So there are tons of them, like Log Rocket, Zero, Smashing Magazine. There are tons and tons of them. So if you write for those tech companies, right, you tend to make a good amount of money. So imagine if the company is paying like $1,000 for an article, for instance, and you write 3 articles in like a month, so you get to make like $3,000 in addition to what you're making as a full-time software developer. So this is a great way to make money through blogging. And then the fourth one is through affiliate links. So affiliate links are almost sort of like advertising, but not in a very obvious way. So let's say, for instance, maybe I'm working with Facebook to advertise something, right? So I would add it to my blog in such a way that it comes up very natural. So someone may not necessarily know that, oh, this is an ad, right? But then they'll most likely click on it because I've told them that it's very useful. So let's assume I've been writing about React.js for like 5 years, and everybody in the ecosystem knows me as the person who writes really insightful React.js articles. So let's say there's a company that just built something cool about React.js, they'll most likely come to reach out to me to share that information with my audience. And the way I'll do that is through affiliate links. So I'll try to make it very natural as possible so that people don't identify or don't notice that that is a ad, right? And then I make my money from it as well. And then the fifth one is through community funding. So there are platforms like Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee where people from the community can tend to fund you. So if you're writing useful content that people like, people can decide to like pay like $10 or like $100 depending on how much you put for your blog, right? So they tend, and this money is always deducted per month. So imagine if we have like over 1,000 people funding your blog, 1,000 people funding your blog like $100, or even if it's $20 every month, that can definitely be a good amount of money for you to make through blogging. In conclusion, these are like the four things I need you to take out of this session. Is blogging is a combination of sharing and gaining knowledge. No, it's not just about sharing knowledge. It's also about gaining knowledge as well in the process. Secondly, it can help you achieve great things and become better as a developer, because when you blog, you have to understand what you're saying before you even go to blog, because you don't want to pass the wrong information to other people. And if you keep blogging consistently, you become known in that space, in that framework, in that programming language or ecosystem. People know that, oh, hey, that's the guy that writes about Flutter, that's the girl that writes about front end. And if any opportunity comes, people can always reach out to you for those opportunities. Bloggers are also lifelong learners, because if you keep writing consistently, it means you're still trying to become better consistently. You're trying to like improve your knowledge in order to be able to share those knowledge with other people consistently. What that therefore means is you become a lifelong learner. You keep learning, and trust me, anybody that keeps learning over time has like a really strong future or is going to absolutely do well in their career. And then fourthly is when you blog, you help yourself too. So don't remove the conception or the mindset that, oh, hey, you're just blogging to share knowledge. Yeah, that's one of the reasons, but you're also helping yourself while you blog. In conclusion, there is this fantastic quote by Chinua Achebe that says, I believe that a good writer doesn't really need to be told anything except to keep at it. So if you ever decide to, let's assume you decided to start blogging today after listening to this session, I would say that you shouldn't just write one blog and say, oh, hey, I blogged, let me go and rest. Try to be consistent at it, because when you become consistent, that's when you begin to reap some of these benefits that I've shared from blogging. Thank you. You can reach out to me on Twitter at GDCodes, or you can read my articles at edidiong.com. And yeah, so my article is actually hosted on a platform called Hashnode. So if you want to get into blogging, feel free to use that platform as well to create your blog. Thank you.